Hello everybody, welcome to Journal Auto YouTube channel. Over the past 2 years I did several reviews in English. There were several cars that I reviewed, but just recently I realized, with the help of a viewer who asked for subtitles, that I didn't review my own car. So this is what I will do today. I will review my own car, but this will not be simply just a detailed review, but I will also talk about my experience with this car, because I'm owning it for over 2 years already. And not just the experience, but I will tell you the things that I don't like and what to expect if you buy a car like this. Of course, if you'll buy it used, because it is not being made anymore. What I have here, it's an Opel Astra from the 4th Astra generation. In UK it's called Vauxhall Astra, and I guess in UK it's 6th generation, because while in Europe this car was still called Cadet, in the UK it was already being called Astra. This car is also called Astra J, so it is the J generation, the J code, and it was made starting with 2009 up until 2015. My car comes with a diesel engine, 1.6. This is an engine that was introduced on the Astra somewhere in 2013. So this car was already facelifted. This is a facelift version because it was made in 2014. And you recognize the facelift version because there are some changes here on the turn lights and fog lights, and also there were some changes here on the front grille. But if you want an Astra like this car comes with plenty of engines. There are 1.4 petrol naturally aspirated, 1.6 naturally aspirated, 1.4 petrol turbo, 1.6 petrol turbo, and then you had a lot of diesels too. 1.3, a little bit too small for this car because it's quite heavy, 1500 kilos. Then you had the old 1.7 diesel that came in 3 versions of power, with 110, 125, 130, and I guess on the facelift there was a version with 100 horsepower. But that engine, despite being an old engine that was quite reliable, it was heavily modernized, and there were problems with it. I think that's because of the modernization. Being a very old engine that was modernized over the years, many people complained about problems on that engine with the diesel particulate filter, but maybe I will talk a little bit more about that. Then you had the 1.6 diesel, like in this car, 136 horsepower like mine, and 110 horsepower. Then you had a 2-liter diesel, 160 horsepower, I guess, that was also put on the insignia, and a B-turbo 2-liter diesel engine that developed 195 horsepower. The petrol, 1.4 petrol, also had an LPG version, so you have plenty of engines to choose from when it comes to this car. I'm filming this in 2022. This car, I bought it in 2020, and it was made in 2014. 1.6, as I said, diesel engine. This is the engine that many people are afraid of because there were some problems with the timing chain, meaning that there were some rattlings on the timing chain, and many people hurried to change the timing chain and all the systems there, and this is quite expensive because some mechanics are even taking the engine out to work on the engine. I don't really have that rattling, and this car, it has almost 200,000 kilometers on the clock. For those of you in UK, I will put the mileage in miles on the screen. As I said, many people hurried and they changed the timing chain, and then after a while they started to hear the rattlings again. Nevertheless, I didn't hear people with engine broken on this car. I don't know if they were or not, but I didn't hear that. Otherwise, this engine is very reliable, and I will tell you during this video what I spent on this car in 2 years. But first, let us go through a tour around the car, because it's a quite good looking car. In 2008, Opel, or Vauxhall, depending on how you want to call it, introduced a new design language on their models, and this was introduced with the Insignia. That was a very good looking car, and then the design language continued with the Astra 4th generation Astra J, which is also a very good looking car that I liked since it appeared on the market. At that time I was driving an old Astra J. It was not that old back then, but now it is very old. And I was dreaming to have an Astra J, but over the years I had different cars because I didn't develop an obsession for this car, you know, just to have it. It happened to have it now. What I like at the design, well, overall the design is nice, but there are two things that I like on this car. First is that the turn signals are down in the bumper. This increases visibility, especially in the night, because for cars that have the turn signal inside the headlight, in the night when the headlight is bright, you barely see the turn signal. But because in the Astra J you have the turn signal in a total different area than the headlight, so down here, it is much more visible in the night. Another thing that I like, that it was also continued on the Astra K, is that the wipers, the windshield wipers, do not clean the windshield like this, you know, in the same way. They go in different direction, like this, like in the minivans. And I like this because in this case, the passenger has also a lot of area of the windshield that is being clean. Imagine that on those cars that where the wipers are going in the same direction, there is many of them are leaving a lot of uncleaned area on the windshield for the passenger, and if that person is taller, it will have their sight somewhere here and the windshield will be dirty. But in this case, because they are working like this, the passenger has a lot of visibility, and I love the cars that have these systems of wipers. Now, a thing that I have changed on this car was the windshield. It is not original anymore because there was a rock that was being thrown from a car that passed with speed, that overtook me with speed, and then a crack. I had a crack on the windshield and I had to change it. It's not original because it was quite expensive to have a General Motors original windshield, but in the same time I didn't want to buy an aftermarket Chinese windshield, so I bought one from Glavista, which is an European brand. The windshield, it's made in Spain, so it's not original, but in the same time I didn't want to make compromises. The wheels are quite nice also. These ones are 17-inch alloy wheels. You have smaller 16-1. They still look good, the 16-1. But a thing that I cannot understand for Opel is why they didn't put the side turn signal in the mirror, and they continued this in the Astra K also. Regarding the design, by the way, for the windshield I paid 950 Romanian lei. You'll see on the screen the conversion in euros and British pound. Another thing that I don't like in the Astra is that the back windows are quite small, and this is because of the design. The car looks good, but it comes with some compromises in terms of practicality. As you can see, the back window, it's quite small. They solved this problem on the next generation, on Astra K, and they did it quite smart, meaning that they made the third window, I think it's the fourth one, because you have one smaller in the front. So they made this last window, the fourth one, smaller, and they made the back passenger window bigger. In the back, nothing special. The car looks also very good. This the hook here, we call it hook, it's for the trailer. It's original, so when the first owner bought this car, they took this thing as an option. Also, you have here, they are not LED lights, but they are normal bulb lights, but when they are turned on, they look like two boomerangs and a little bit like LED. Another thing that I like on the Astra is that the brake light, it's separated from the normal light. It's the one here, and this is increases a lot the visibility. You know that many cars, when they have the brake light on the same light with the normal lights, let's say, and when they push the brake, just the light becomes brighter. In this case, it is separated and it's much more visible than in other cars. now because we are on the back, let's talk about the trunk. And before talking about the trunk, let's talk about a problem that I discovered in Opel, and I think maybe others have it. If there is a lot of water pouring on the back window, the water will leak inside. And I found out that the leaking comes from here, see, where these two pieces are coming together. So it's leaking over the window. You also see maybe a lot of traces from the leaking, and sometimes the leaks are pouring here onto the cover for the trunk. This is a problem, not a very big one, but for me sometimes it's being disturbed. It disturbs me. Happily, there is no water leaking inside. Inside meaning, I don't know, in the trunk or so on. And this is the trunk. This is the cover shelf, the cover of the trunk, the parcel shelf, like it's called in UK sometimes. It's nice. It's leather, at least in my car, but it's just leather and that. So meaning that it's very thin, as you see. It's just a cover. And because it's not made from a hard material, you cannot put anything on it. So if I took this purse and I'm putting it here, you see already if I'm putting something even heavier, it might break. So it's nice because I have leather, but it's not nice because you cannot put almost anything on it. At least it has this smart thing where it goes up. Okay, and now this is the trunk. 500 liters, which is okay. It's quite a lot for an estate car, but this car, it's a C-class car in Europe, a compact car, and it's quite long in its class. So it's almost 4.7 meters long. So it's longer than a BMW 3 Series from that period that it's in the D-class, D segment. So I'm disappointed for the trunk because while it is big for this class, it's okay. It's small compared to the length of the car. So they didn't took advantage of the length of the car to make a bigger boot. For example, the Golf in that period had, and Octavia also, had over 600 liters. But it's still enough for most families, 500 liters. So we have some storage space here, some storage space here. You have hooks on each side. For example, this one, you push it like this and it goes like this. This one doesn't work anymore. This is how I bought the car. You also have a storage space for different stuff here. This is typically for Opel. I had it in the old Astra J also. And on the left side, you have here some wiring, but at least it's easy to access it. Now, you also have some hooks here in each side, so one. And under the floor, you have also a lot of storage space. As you can see, I have a lot of space here. I stored a lot of things here. Oh, by the way, this is the purse for the trailer hook. So you get a purse, and when you remove the trailer hook, you have this plastic from the bumper, to cover it here. So it's quite nice, but I'm keeping it all the time in my car because here in Romania people let's say that there are many reckless drivers, and this is sort of a protection for me. I'm putting it back. Okay, now you see there is a lot of storage space, but there is no spare wheel here. You have room for a spare wheel, and sometimes I took my one of the winter wheels, because I have separate wheels for the winter for this car, and I put it here as a spare wheel, but I am losing all the storage space here, so I have this, let's see, tiring repairing kit, but in most cases it's useless because it will help you only for 10 minutes. But if you are on the highway far away from any close city, it's completely useless. Happily, I never had to use it. So the trunk is quite big, quite practical, as you saw, and for me and my family was more than enough. But my only complaint is that, considering the length of the car, it could have been bigger. Another thing that I like is that the emergency kit, you can store it here. See, you do it like this, up, up, and you have here the triangle, the emergency triangle, and also the first aid kit, which is being kept here. Now, very nice. And because we are still here, you have those hooks to close the trunk, which are nice. But I will leave it open. And if you want more room, because I also carried a lot of things with this car, if you want more room, you can do like this, and you almost have a completely flat area. It's not completely flat, but you can still push things up to the front without any problems. But in case you want a completely flat area, you just raise the seat and then put this down, and now it's completely flat. So as I said, I carried a lot of things with this car. Quite practical, despite some short backs due to the design. And if we are still here, I want to show you one more thing that I don't like on this car. I will get in the back. Okay, I just washed the car, so I don't want to make it dirty. I have another leaking problem on both of the back windows. Again, if there is a lot of water being poured on the window, like, you know, when you wash the car or when it's heavily raining, there is water leaking and pouring from here, but happily it doesn't get inside. It goes around here, and you can take it out from the door because it has some hooks, some little holes here that are covered. You just remove the cover somewhere here, and then the water pours out. Another problem, I mean, let's say not really a problem, but I am 182 tall, 1 meter and 82 centimeters. The seat, the front seat, it's put in my position, meaning that it's quite pushed to the back, and I still have some knee room. Not a lot, like in, let's say, Golf or Octavia, which are bigger here, especially the Octavia. Not a lot, but I still have around 3 fingers. But remember that it's quite pushed to the back. And they also made this area here inside, like in the Mercedes style. They have like that, and it's quite nice because you have more knee room. But my complaint again, this car is 4.7 meters long, and it could have been bigger inside considering its length, and it's not. Otherwise, I have a sunroof, so this is optional. I do have it, I like it, but it takes you from the headroom, but not that much, you know. I still have headroom, and here inside, where the back passenger keeps its head, you know, they made an area that for you to have, you see here, for you to have more room. Just look now at the back window. It's quite small. You can get used to it, but nevertheless, it is small. If you want to stay in the middle seat, which is, let's try it now. I don't have a headrest, as you see, for the middle seat, because the first owner didn't take it. It seems that it was optional, because I feel here, I have the holes, you see, these here, under the leather, are the holes for the third headrest, but it was not taken as an option. If you want to stay here, 3 people, only on short distances, and as you can see on the head, I don't have much visibility, but I'm quite tall also, so you need to remember that. It's not very comfortable here for short trips. As I said, it's bearable, but for longer trips, just forget it. Only 2 people here for longer trips. And in the front, now it's dirty again. In the front, you can move the headrest by pushing this this button. What I like in my car, and I will show in the front, is that I have leather. Of course, it's a combination. As you can see on the seats, in the back, also in the front, it's a combination of fabric and leather, which is nice because in the summer, where you put your seat and your back, you have fabric, so it will not be very hot. If it was totally leather, you know, in the summer, it would have been very hot. In the winter, it would have been very cold. If we are still here, let's talk about the quality of the materials in this car. Hard plastic, of course, in this class, it happens. As I said in other videos, in my opinion, there are 3 types of materials inside the car. You have the cheap and nasty plastics. You have the hard plastics, but they are quite good, quite solid, a good quality, even if they are hard. And you have the soft plastic. This one, it's quite hard, but it's solid. It's okay. In this car, you'll find all 3 types of car materials. Happily, here where you keep your elbow, you have leather, and it's very soft. And this is nice. And down here, also hard plastic. But at least you have a door pocket. Many cars don't have it. I reviewed the BMW 3 Series E90 generation, E91 because it was a touring, a wagon, and didn't have door pockets in the back. And you also have pockets here on the seats. And let me show you, let me find a bottle. So I took a bottle of water. This is the door pocket. This is a 1 liter bottle of water. You can see enough room. This is nice. And they also have a nice sound when the door closes. Let's see. See? It sounds nice. Now let's go in the front. And if we are talking about the materials, let's go to see what we can find in the front. Since I still have this bottle, let's see in the front, even bigger are the door pockets, which is nice. I'll leave it here. Now, here, soft, nice to touch. Soft, 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 and leather. And this is a glossy material, something similar like piano black, but of course it's not piano black, it's something glossy, and it doesn't have scratches. I think only a little one here in 8 years, so it's nice. And here, like in most cars, hard plastic, but quite solid. And now let's get inside. My Astra, it's a quite well equipped car. It's the Cosmo version. It doesn't have every option you can have on the Astra, but it has many of them, like the Opel writing here when you open the door. Because it's day you cannot see it, but you have red lights inside in the night, here in the door, both of them, and here under the gear lever. Maybe you can see some red shades, see here, but it's not night to show you. Let's continue with the materials inside. I was talking to you about nasty plastics. This is the only nasty plastic, cheap one that you find in this car, that you can find in this car. And sometimes it even gives you some rattlings. And another issue of this car, although it doesn't happen every time, quite rarely, you have rattlings. Sometimes from the sunroof, sometimes from the seat belts, sometimes from this nasty plastic. But as I said, quite rare. It doesn't happen all the time, and it doesn't happen often. Here you have hard plastic, but very solid. And in the middle area of the dashboard, you have soft material, soft plastic. The steering wheel is also very nice. I like its design. This car, as I said, it's well equipped. I have speed limiter, I have cruise control, I have Bluetooth, I have voice commands, although I think it works only in English. In Romanian it doesn't work. I have the volume on the steering wheel, I have automatic headlights, I have rain sensors. So you have a lot of stuff, and most German cars you'll find here this nice storage space. Front fog lights, rear fog lights. I have also navigation, but only for Western Europe. In Eastern Europe it doesn't recognize, it recognizes only the main roads. Okay, and again you have this glossy material, glossy plastic on the center console, which is very nice to touch, by the way. And it is not scratched after so many years. And here you have another nice storage space, and if it gets dirty you can remove this and clean it and then put it back. Very nice. So you have here an USB port. Yes, we have an USB port down here. Then we have a 12-volt socket and a jack port. And what I like is that there are 3 storage spaces for cup holders. So not only 2, but 3. This is the armrest, and it's very soft, and it has leather on it. And it also has some storage, although not very big, and it's sliding. It's nice. This car has a manual handbrake, but there are also options for electronic park brake, because it's not handbrake anymore, being a park brake. You also have an eco button, which is the start-stop system. You play with this for the navigation. Many people complain that there are a lot of buttons here, and indeed there are a lot of buttons, but you get used quite easily with them, because you have this area only related to the navigation and the audio system, and this area, it's related to the climate control. Oh, by the way, this one is where you introduce the CD. So it took me some time to find it. So what we have here, air conditioning, 2 areas. So it's not only air conditioning, it's automatic climate control. And you also have heated seats. And as you see, we have the sunroof. And if you want to see how this works, you have this button to close it. Oh, sorry, this one. And this is how you close it. And then a cover. And if you want to open it only partially, you can do like this, and it opens partially. And in this position you can only close it like this. And then if you want to open it, push it long, and the sunroof opens. And another thing left, it's the glove box, which is huge, I would say, quite huge. You can see there are a lot of stuff stored here, and there is still room, and you have there some space for coins, but I would advise you not to put coins here, because they will start to rattle. Here I have LED lights, but these are not factory LED lights, so they were being added by the previous owner. And if you see the small dot here on the rear window, it is because it darkens when outside it's darker, in order for you not to be blinded by the headlights of the cars behind you. This is how the car key looks like. See? A problem that I saw in many Opels is that with the time, these areas where you push to open and close it, they start to break. But you can replace this key. It's not very expensive. And another thing to show you before starting to talk about the costs of this car, it's that you see these nice leather seats. The adjustment is not automatic, it's manual, but I like this combination of fabric and leather, as I said, because it's not hot in the summer. And these seats are very comfortable. I would dare to say that they are the most comfortable seats in this class. You know that starting with this generation of Astra and Insignia, Opel started to offer very good seats, and some of them are even medically certified, which is nice. Now, let's talk a little bit about the costs. The ownership costs for this car. We usually know that Opel is not the most reliable brand, but nevertheless, this car was the most reliable that I had. Not that I had only unreliable cars, but it proved to be very good, at least for me. In 2 years since I have it, I did with it almost 50,000 kilometers. And many Romanians are complaining in the Astra, but especially with the 1.7 liter engine, with problems regarding the diesel particulate filter and other stuff, but especially with the diesel particulate filter, because when this particulate filter has a regeneration, if you stop the car during the regeneration, when you start again the car, it will not continue from where it left, but it will start all over again. But the problem of many Romanians, I don't know how it is in your country, but in my country, many of them are driving the diesels inside the city. And of course, they will have problems with the diesel particulate filter, because the diesel, it's not a car made for the city. It's made for long roads. And 95%, so 95% of the time, I drove this car outside the city on longer trips, and I have no problems with the diesel particulate filter. I don't have the problems with EGR. I don't have problems with anything in this car. And that's why the ownership was quite cheap for me. What I changed, as I said, the windshield, that was 950 lei, you'll see it on the screen, converted in euros and in British pounds. I also changed the car battery because it died, and it didn't die, but it was on its way to die. Meaning that when I bought the car, the start-stop system was not functioning, and the previous owner, which by the way was a relative of mine, told me that it's because of the car battery, because it's starting to die, but it still went on 1 year without working, without the start-stop system to work. And then after 1 year, I changed the battery when I started to see that the car was starting slowly, when I wanted to ignite it, and I changed the car battery. I have a Varta now. So for the battery, you need to have at least an 80 ampere hour one, 12 volt battery. And now of course the start system works. The battery costed me 830 lei. You'll see it again converted on the screen in euro and in British pounds. And another thing that I changed just 1 month after I bought the car were the brake pads, which were all 4 of them 700 lei. And that is all what I invested in this car. Also, if you want to, the technical inspections, for example, if you want to change the oil, when you need to change the oil, I'm changing it at 10,000 kilometers, each 10,000 kilometers, and I'm using now Ravenol. Let's say you want to change the oil, the filters, you have the fuel filter, oil filter, you have the filter that it's inside, and so on. There are 4 filters. Last time it cost me almost 800 lei, because we are in 2022. I'm filming this in 2022, where we are fighting with the inflation. Before this, the price was around 600 lei for each technical inspection, meaning changing the oil, as I said, the filters, and so on. So somewhere between 600 and 800 Romanian leis. Fuel consumption before going to drive this car. It depends. It depends where you drive. It depends how you use the car. Inside the city, if the city is like the capital of Romania, Bucharest, which you don't drive there, you mostly stay blocked in the traffic, you can get up to 9 liters of diesel for each 100 kilometers. And on the screen, I will make the conversion in UK MPG for those of you in UK. On longer trips, as I said, it depends. I drove this car with 80 kilometers per hour, 80-85 constantly, and not on the hilly region like I'm here, and I got a record of 3.7 liters per 100 kilometers. But usually, if you drive it on national roads, 110 kilometers per hour, you will get somewhere between 4.5 and 5 liters per 100 kilometers. As I said, depending on the conditions outside, depending if you drive it on a plane, depending if you are on the hills, and so on. And if you want to drive it on the highway, 130 kilometers per hour, because this is the limit here in Romania, somewhere between 5.5 up to 6 liters per 100 kilometers, depending again on how it is outside. But as I said, this car also has petrol engines, and I think the most suitable ones would be the 1.4 turbo with 140 horsepower, and maybe the 1.6 naturally aspirated. It's quite slow, that engine, for a car this heavy. As I said, 1500 kilos, so it's very heavy for this class, and this was a problem of this car that was solved on the next generation, because the Astra K was around 1300 kilos. So it went to the gym and managed to lose 200 kilos. Despite being slowly, that engine, it's quite nice for those who are not who do not like speed. And now we are going to drive this car, and I will show it to you what is the biggest advantage of this car, because it has a quite different characters compared to those in its class. I'm now driving the Astra in order to tell you how it feels. Now here I don't have the multimedia system, it's just the phone, because it doesn't have, in those years there was no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. This is how it looks. Sorry. See, radio, I don't know, navigation, nothing special. I have some hills here. And by the way, if we are talking about hills, this car, it's not the best to drive on twisty roads, because, as I said, in accordance with its very comfortable seats, its main strength is its comfort. This car, it's very quiet inside. When you drive it, it feels like the ride, it's floating. So I feel very, very good in these seats. It's very nice to drive it. For those of you who are looking, that are not interested in sporty driving, that are not interested in, to feel the road, to feel the turns and so on. For those of you only interested in a nice and smooth ride, well, this is the best in class in terms in comfort. And all the car magazines in that period, or at least not all, at least Auto Bild in Germany, was confirming this, that in this class it is the most comfortable compared to its rivals. And when it comes to me, of course, I do like sometimes to drive sporty cars and so on, but mostly I like to drive smooth, in silence, in comfort, and this is what this car offers me. What I do not like, you see here this small window, and the A-pillar, it's very thick, and because of this, it was a little bit hard for me, let's say in the first weeks of owning this car, it was a little bit hard for me to get used with the visibility, because it's not that great because of these thick pillars and that small window. But once you get used to it, there will be no problems with it. And visibility to the back, that is okay, that is good. I now have a little bit of a twisty road. Don't imagine that the car will roll down on a twisty road, because not. The steering wheel, it's quite light, but it responds. For example, let's see here. For example, if I'm doing like this, you see, it responds. It responds to my moves. But it's still, in the same time, the steering wheel, it's light. It's not like in those sporty car where the steering wheel, it's very tight and just the smoothest change, you will feel it. It's not like that, because this car wants to be set more on the comfort, but in the same time you do not feel the steering wheel like it's dead. It offers you feedback, but not that like in a sporty car. As I told you in the video, during the video, the car is quite heavy. 1500 kilos. More exactly, this one of mine is 1503. But others, depending on the engine, can be a little bit more. The 1.7, from what I understood, it's around 1560 kilos. Other a little bit under 1500, but still it's a heavy car for its class, where most of its rivals are around 1300 kilos. That means that the car will also feel heavy if you have an engine with less horsepower, like the 1.3 diesel, or like the 1.6 or 1.4 naturally aspirated petrol. And those engines, you will need to go up in the torque to get the power from them. So for this car, you really need an engine that it's a little bit more powerful. For me, with this 1.6 that develops 136 horsepower, it's okay. It has powers. I can do overtakes without any problems. Let's say the 1.4 petrol, 140 horsepower, that is also a good engine. It has enough power for the weight of the car. And of course 2.0 diesel, and the 1.6 turbo petrol, 180 horsepower. That's a nice engine too. I don't know how reliable it is. I understood that it had some problems here and there, but it is a nice engine with so much horsepower. So you see, this is I'm accelerating. It went well, as you saw. Again, accelerating, 80 kilometers per hour, very comfortable. I barely feel the bumps. So the suspension is very, very smooth. It's a pleasure to drive this car on longer trips because it's quiet and it's comfortable. It's what it needs to be for a family, for a normal family. Of course, if you want something sporty, you can look to Ford Focus, you can look to Honda Civic. Even the Golf is more sporty than the Astra, but none of them is as much as comfortable as the Astra. In the end, what are my thoughts regarding the Opel Astra, especially this generation? Well, its main strengths are that it's very comfortable. I mean, this car floats. The riding feels like it's floating. And for those of you who are loving comfortable cars, not sporty one, this should be on your short list. In the same time, you have a good looking car, quite practical, with a good looking interior. But as you saw, there are some things typical to Opel. When you think that everything is going good, it happens to you to have water leakings. It happens to you to have all this small stuff, but with a lot of power to disturb you. Because it wouldn't be Opel if it's not like that. You see, it cannot be perfect. But in my case, especially, I'm very happy with this engine. So it depends on what engine you will choose. I would say regarding the diesel ones, avoid the 1.3 because it's way too small for this car. 1.6, 110 or 136 horsepower, it's okay. And the 1.7 in the version with 110 horsepower, because that version had less problems than the versions with 125 and 130 horsepower. Regarding the 2.0 diesel engine, well, that was put in the Insignia, and before facelift it had quite a lot of problems, even with engine damage, so it's better to avoid it. But if you can afford to maintain a car like this, go for the 2.0 diesel biturbo, 195 horsepower. Now, talking about the petrol ones, I would go for two of them. 1.6 naturally aspirated or 1.4 turbo petrol, 140 horsepower. These proven to be quite reliable engines for those of you who don't do many kilometers and who also want to use this car not only on highways but also in the city, also on shorter trips. If you like this video, just hit the like button, give a comment if you agree, or if you want to share your experience with this car, being whether it was bad or good. And if you consider subscribing it, I would be more than happy, and this will help me continue do English video also, apart for those directed for my Romanian audience.